Okay, yesterday we talked about the bronze altar, right? And it was wood overlaid with bronze, 7.5 feet long, 7.5 feet wide, 4.5 feet high. Now, they needed some more things to go with this. There's going to be fire in this. There's going to be animal sacrifice. So God gets into the details. I love that. The Bible's full of such great detail. So let's look at starting in verse 3 in Exodus 27. It says, make ash buckets, shovels, basins, meat forks, and fire pans, all of bronze. Make a bronze grating for it, and attach 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners. Install the grating halfway down the side of the altar under the ledge. For carrying the altar, make poles from acacia wood and overlay them with bronze. Insert the poles through the rings on the 2 sides of the altar. The altar must be hollow, made from planks, and build it just as you were shown on the mountain. Now let's start out with the idea of the poles, right? Remember, everything that's being built right now is portable. The tabernacle is portable. The Ark of the Covenant itself, portable. Like all those things, the poles to put it through. I mean, a tent, it's a tent. The tabernacle's a tent. You break it down. You move it somewhere else. It makes perfect sense in how they are doing this. The altar will have to be portable too, because people are going to be wandering in the wilderness, and then even after they enter the promised land in the time of Joshua, they're not immediately going to go take over and build a temple. That won't happen for generations and generations in the time of Solomon. So the tabernacle will be where they worship. And so it is God's temporary house, so to speak. So they will be able to move it. And so the altar itself had to be portable. But he also talks about some other things here besides just the poles and how to transport it. He talks about ash buckets, shovels, basins, meat forks, and fire pans. Okay, what are all those for, right? These utensils were used in preparation of the offerings and in the maintenance of the altar. And each was specifically made for the tabernacle. They were all bronze. So the things on the inside were gold, right? We talk about the altar of incense, the lampstand, the table of showbread. All the utensils inside were gold. The ones on the outside were bronze. So they had these buckets, ash buckets. And what they would do is they would hold the ashes that were removed from under the altar, right? Because you have this altar, you're burning things, right? You're burning these animals. You got to get rid of the ash. And this is going to be, it's like your grill, right? The grease drips down. Same concept. You want to clean your grill out, you're going to clean your altar out. It's a very, very practical thing that they were doing here. They also had basins, and these were used to catch the blood of the animals as the animal was killed and the blood was drained. So they would catch the blood, and the blood would be sprinkled on the altar. The blood would be sprinkled on the horns that we talked about yesterday. And on the Day of Atonement, that blood would even be taken into the Holy of Holies and be sprinkled upon the mercy seat, which was the lid for the Ark of the Covenant. So you had that happening as well. Forks, right? Meat forks. You're going to be putting these large, these sacrifices, these animals, these portions of meat. You would need to maneuver it. You need to put it where it's supposed to go. You got to pull it off at some point. So these are almost like big 3-pronged skewers. I mean, these things are big that they're having to move these things around with. And also the priest would take a portion of the burnt offering. So they would take a portion of the meat while it was being, pretty much cooked on the altar, and it would be used by the priests. They would eat that meat. And it makes sense. They were there, they were serving, they weren't able to be doing for themselves, so they would do that. They would get part of that. And then they talk about even fire pans. These fire pans, they would carry fire from inside the tabernacle on the altar of incense. The hot coals would bring out, and it would be used to start the fire for the altar. So these things all had a real purpose. Even the grate. The grate went inside the altar itself. And the animal, the meat, could be laid upon the altar, the dead animal, while it was being consumed. That just makes sense. You weren't going to throw it straight on the fire. It all is very, very practical. So practical things for practical God in worship of Him. See you later.